video is going to be my February reads / Crescent City review, because that's all I read in February, because each book is like 800 pages, and so together 1,600 pages. Is that the correct math? Yes, it's 1,600 pages. This is not gonna include the new Crescent City book, the recent one that just came out, because I'm still currently reading that one. So that's gonna be a different video. But this one may have spoilers in it, so if you have not read it yet and care about spoilers, then probably circle back around to this video. Yeah. I feel like I talk so bland. I need to pep it up some. It's hard though, because I'm just getting over being sick. The Crescent City books are modern fantasy, which is kind of hard for some people to get into. It was hard for me to get into, but it was good. It was, once I like got used to having like technology and devices, then like it was fine. It wasn't really an issue anymore. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna start with Crescent City 1, House of Earth and Blood. This book follows a girl named Bryce. She is a half fae, half human who recently lost her best friend. Her best friend was murdered. And that's not really a big spoiler because that happens in like in chapter 5. It happens very fast. But she ends up struggling with it, and because that's like her only person. Being half fae, half human, she does not have many friends. So she struggles for 2 years until the Archangel, which is hard to explain. He's kind of like, I guess you would call him, I don't know, the president of whatever territory that he presides over. He approaches Bryce with a proposition to help solve her murder. There had been similar murders and they haven't had a break. So he recruits Bryce to come work for him and work alongside this angel, Hunt, who is a slave. More on that later. But they're going to be working together to solve this murder and these murders, and find out why her friend was targeted. Her friend's name is Danica, because she's going to be like, though she is dead, she will be a major part of the story. There's themes of perseverance, death, mystery, power and corruption, revenge, and good versus evil. Like I said, the main characters are Bryce, who is the half fae, but she does have some secrets. She has a lot of secrets that she just keeps from the entire world. And then there's Hunt, who is a fallen angel. So that's how he became a slave. He was part of a rebellion, and they didn't do so well. So now he's a slave. And then there's Rune. He is the starborn prince of the Fae, and he is a relative of Bryce's. And then there's Danica. Like I said, she's the deceased BFF. And throughout the whole story, throughout the whole book, throughout the whole series, really, she has all these secrets that just keep popping up. It's driving Bryce nuts because it was her best friend, but apparently she doesn't really know much about her like she thought she did. And then there's Micah, something like that. I always pronounce the Sarah J Maas characters' names wrong. But he is the Archangel, like I said, who presides over Crescent City, which is also called Lunathian, but I don't call it that because my tongue has a hard time with that word. Then there's Sandriel, who is another archangel from a different territory. I think it's Pangera. And she is the fallen sister of, she's the twin sister of Hunt's fallen lover, Shahar, who she led that first rebellion. And then there is Lahaba, which the whole time I was pronouncing her name Liaba, but I guess it's Lahaba. So we'll just call her that. She's the sweetest little fire sprite. She's too sweet. And if you know anything about Sarah J Maas, that's not really a good sign. Bryce struggles with grief and unhappiness in her station. She keeps a lot of secrets, and she's really misunderstood. She uses this facade as a stupid party girl to kind of get people to like look past her so nobody really asks too many questions. And then Hunt, some of the things Hunt really struggles with is he really wants his freedom, and he really at this point in his life has nothing to lose, which makes him like a liability, honestly. And then Rune is that defiant party boy guy who he's got tats and half his head buzzed off and or half his hair buzzed off, and he's got secrets that he's keeping from everybody that are pretty important kind of, and he believes he has no future, so he just does not give a shit about anything really. What really got me for this, like what really like pulled me into this book, the reason why I was pretty intent on getting through the book was I heard that there is a plot twist in it, and I thought I had gotten to the plot twist at one point, and I was like, oh, that's like not really anything, and I was wrong. When I finally realized what the plot twist was and I got to it, it hurt my feelings, and I felt betrayed, and it was a good one, which is crazy. That the thing about Sarah J Maas is Sarah J Maas will tell you what is going to happen in her books. She will point out things, but she'll kind of do it like under the radar, like so you kind of just dismiss it, like, oh yeah, like whatever, they said that already, or like that's just it's just part of like the conversation, just part of the dialogue. But no, she tells you exactly what's going to happen, and I did that. I just right over my head. I didn't care. Things that I liked about this book was it did make me cry. I freaking cried like a baby because somebody always has to die. And I didn't want this person to die. This person was one of my favorites, and that always happens in all the Sarah J Maas's books. It's always the ones that I get attached to really, really good that die. So now there's another character in the Crescent City books that I really like, and I'm just waiting for it to happen. It had a very intense ending, which I love a big bang at the end, so it was good. Things I disliked about the book. The main thing that got me was it was so complicated in the beginning when they're talking about like the hierarchies of everything, and it was really hard to keep up because there's the Asteri, there's the archangels, there's the other angels, there's the Triari, the 33rd, the Ox, like so many like terms and stuff that I was very confused about who goes where and what's what, and like why are they just not the same thing. That I had to get like halfway through the book before I finally caught on to all these different terms. So that was one thing that I didn't like. That was very hard for my like brain to. I had a hard time connecting the dots with the book. Not that okay, maybe connecting the dots isn't the right term. I kept up with the book perfectly fine. But when we got towards the end, I was like, okay, I know the answer. I know what's going on. And I know, like, we solved the mystery. Cool, we got it. But I could not tell you how we got from point A to point B to point C. Like, how did they figure this out? I went out, as I was reading, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But then reading on more, like something else happened, and then something else happened, and then something else happened. And eventually I forgot what the other thing that happened, and then the other thing that happened. And I cannot tell you how we got from this point to this point to then figuring out what the heck is going on. I didn't really annotate this book that much because I was just trying to, oh man, my voice. I was just trying to like keep up, get through the book. And at this point, I've been reading Sarah J Maas books nonstop for 6 months. And I was so close to Crescent City 3, and I already had the book in my possession, and I just wanted to freaking get through it. But yeah, that's my take on Crescent City 1. I do recommend it to people because it gets better along the way. Like, of the 3 books, that one's okay. Honestly, I would say like a 3-star, just because there was too many dislikes for me. Moving on to Crescent City 2, this book does have spoilers for the previous book. If you want to stop there, you can. Okay, so the plot of this book, let me remember for a second. The plot of this book, I just needed to remember for a second because I am reading Crescent City 3, so I needed to draw the line where book 2 ends and book 3 starts. In this book, we have this group of humans. They are called Ophian. I wish there was an R there, because I keep wanting to call it Orphean. Maybe it is that, but I think it's Ophian. This group of rebels is really working to kind of end this. How do I say it? How do they say it? Okay, so that didn't really help. They're trying to like basically bring down the government. The humans are very oppressed. There's basically a rebellion going on. And Hunt and Bryce have been told to buy the Asteri, to lay low, and you guys will like live happily ever after. We won't bug you. And that becomes a struggle when a friend of theirs, Therian, comes up to them and is like, hey, I'm trying to find this kid, and he, you know, is a rebel, or the rebels want him as well, and he can like really change the playing field for them. So he's looking for this kid. And then Ophian is also looking for this kid and trying to like figure out how to say it without having spoilers, because it's kind of hard. There are a lot of people in this book. I wrote them down in my notes because I was losing track, and it's over like 25 people, and I didn't even write anybody down or everybody down. And Oh my god, it's so much. So now Bryce is like, hey, you know, everybody's going after this kid, but he's just a kid and I want to help him and I want to save him from all these people. And Hunt's like, no, we should lay low. We should listen to the Asteri and just mind our own business because he's gone through this road before. So they ended up getting sucked into this. So that is plot 1. This book has so many plots, I had to write them all down. So this kid's name is Emil and his older sister Sophie. Sophie is believed to be dead, but she might be alive. I'm not going to tell you the ending for that, whether she is or isn't alive. But yeah, they are Thunderbirds who have been completely just massacred by the Asteri because they have the ability to bring down the Asteri, and they are like, hey, we need this kid Emil, and which is the kid everybody's looking for. So that's plot 1, finding Emil and Sophie. There's the whole question of whether they're going to actually join the rebels or not, and figure out where they really stand. So they're really tiptoeing this line on where they stand, trying to stay out of trouble. The rest, there's a bunch of other plots, but I don't think I need to mention them here, because there's a lot going on. But it definitely is easier to keep up than the first book. But a big one that really becomes just the whole series is Danica has more things that are popping up. They're important things. They're very deep, and they're really what makes the whole second half of the book. They really lead Bryce on this trail of finding out what all these things mean and what these things mean for them. And at the very end of the book, you get one of those long monologues of what's really happening behind the scenes. So the characters in this book are obviously Bryce and Hunt, who I said before are trying to just lay low, have a happy ending, happily ever after. And then there's Cormac. He is going to be the Avalon Fae Prince who ends up betrothed to Bryce, which becomes an issue for them. Which becomes an issue for Bryce and Hunt. Turns out he is an Ulfian member. That's not really a spoiler because you learn that pretty early on in the book. And he's really who drags Bryce and Rune and Hunt onto into the war that's going on. Tharian is going to be he's brought up in book 1. He is the commander of the River Queen, and he is hunting for Emil and Sophie under her orders. Then another key player in the book is going to be Agent Daybright, or just Day. She is the inside guy for Ulfian. She we know that she works high up somewhere, and she is using her position to feed intel to Ulfian, and Rune ends up being the person who will be the contact for her to deliver information. Then there's Ulfian, the rebel group. They're shit gets crazy with them. I'm still debating on whether they are good people or bad people, because there is one character, her name is Pippa Spetsos. Honestly, some of these names, man. She is a commander for them. She's a very important, influential person, and she's got a lot of power inside Ulfian, and she's just bad to the bone. And then another key player in the story is going to be Ethan. He's really just a brave heart trying to find his place and where he belongs. And his story is kind of sad, but it's also heartwarming. Like, it's one of the more, like, the way, like, the bond that he builds with the other characters in the book, it's very heartwarming and touching. And it's one of my favorite aspects of the book. With Sarah J Maas books, you have to, like, pay attention because these things are going to pop up later on. And I've taken notes on, like, all the different gods. They really, like, add on, and it's incredible to me. Like, how can her brain, like, create all of this? Like, how does she, like, think of this? I'm, like, so in awe of her. There are at the end of this book, there are things that come up that are spoken about very, very briefly in the ACOTAR books. And I don't, like, it's amazing. I don't want to do spoilers, but, like, I'm just freaking mind blown and I'm in awe. And this woman is a freaking genius. It's okay, likes and dislikes on this book. There's not very many dislikes. There was one point where, if you've read the Throne of Glass books, you know that Aelin is always scheming, something. And she doesn't ever tell anybody anything, like what she's planning, and people get hurt. And Bryce pulled some of that crap, and I was like, please do not be that kind of character. Because, unpopular opinion, I don't like Aelin. She bugs me. I think of all the female characters of the Sarah J Maas universe, I like her the least. Like, she's horrible. One thing that I did like about this book is this book has a lot of meat into it. There's a lot of good information and details and sets up for some real good theories that I'm so freaking excited reading Crescent City 3 because this book just sets it up so good at the end. This book, I found out at the end of this book, it ties into the ACOTAR books. The very end, the very last chapter, and oh fuck, it gets me so pumped. I'm a freaking nerd for these books. It's so great. Oh my god, hold on. I need to, like, pull myself together for a second. So yeah, this last chapter, I'm one of those people who, for some reason, I cannot help myself. I will flip to the last page and I will read the last sentence. And I am so glad that I did not on this book. Oh god, it's so freaking good. Moving on, I do recommend this book. It's a great book. However, if you have not read the ACOTAR books first, you need to do that. I know everybody's like, oh yeah, you have to read Throne of Glass first, and then ACOTAR, and then the Crescent City books. But honestly, at this point, Throne of Glass is like its own. It's like its own world right now. There were a couple little Easter eggs throughout these books, like throughout all 1,600 pages. There was only like 2 Easter eggs for Throne of Glass. I think the order should definitely read ACOTAR, then Crescent City. And then if you want to read Throne of Glass, then read that one later on. Yeah, I do recommend reading Sarah J Maas's. She is an incredible lady, and she like has me on a chokehold right now. I know by the time I finish reading Crescent City 3, I'm going to be like, like having a hard time figuring out what to read next because I'm just gonna be on such a freaking high from it. Like even just book 2 like had me reeling for days before I even picked up book 3 because I've been sick and my house has been a disaster and it just took me a couple of days to actually start reading the book, and the book starts off on a freaking bang. And it's not a bang, but I mean, if you're a freaking nerd for like the ACOTAR books like I am, then yeah, it starts out pretty good and it doesn't disappoint. So yeah, I do recommend Crescent City, and that's what I read in February. But yeah, that's what I read in February. And I am not sure what I'm going to read after I've read this Crescent City series. So if anybody has any recommendations, maybe I'll do a video of what's on my physical TBR and we can figure it out there. But yeah, that's it for now.